You know you're in for something powerful when a poet looks you straight in the eye, figuratively or literally, and says, "Must I cut off my tongue?" That's not just poetry, that's a dare. Sitawa Namwalie's Cut Off My Tongue is the kind of book that grabs you by the collar, shakes you a little, and then gently whispers, "We need to talk about your tribe, your land, and why you think you own either of them." Now I have to tell you about my first encounter with Sitawa Namwalie's poetry. It wasn't on the page, it was live, at the museum in Kampala, Uganda. I watched her perform this entire set of poems, and let me tell you, I walked out of there with my mind buzzing like an over-caffeinated bee.
What?
That performance is etched in my memory. It was bold, unflinching, and yet so beautifully lyrical that you couldn't help but be moved, even when the topics were uncomfortable. And trust me, Namwalie isn't afraid of the uncomfortable. So, what is this collection about? Cut Off My Tongue is a bold anthology of 25 poems and 4 essays, written by Kenyan poet Sitawa Namwalie. And when I say bold, I mean she does not shy away from calling things by their names. She dives into the tricky waters of identity, tribe, politics, and land, and does it with a sharp tongue that never loses its poetic rhythm. At its core, this book is about identity. Personal, tribal, African identity. It's about understanding who we are, why we keep dividing ourselves into tiny camps, and why those divisions keep exploding into violence. Namwalie isn't just pointing fingers, though. She's asking deep, unsettling questions about the human obsession with tribe and land. Let's start with the opening poem, Language of Tribe. Here, Sitawa sets the tone for the whole book with a question that's as piercing as it is universal.
I wanted to know, what is this thing that has us all by the neck? What does it look like? How does it feel? How do we live with it?
And you can almost see her shaking her head in disbelief when she reflects on how someone who has friends across all tribes can suddenly be glaring at them.
Across a wide abyss, a yawning space unbridgeable by the smiles of my former friends.
Isn't that what happens when politicians whisper their poison into the air, and suddenly everyone's looking at each other like strangers? But does she find an answer? Not really, and maybe that's the point. Some questions are there to force us to think, to hold a mirror to our own prejudices. Now, Namwalie doesn't stop with tribe. She pulls land into the conversation because, let's face it, where there's tribe, there's always land lurking in the background like a nosy neighbor. In Land of Guiltless Natives, she tackles this obsession with land head-on, and she does it with a bite of sarcasm so sharp it's almost surgical. She points a finger at the British colonists, saying,
"But let's not blame all the British. The set that came to Kenya is guilty of this particular mania. Lords and ladies of the real, from a tiny island of 60 million souls on only 244,820 square kilometers. And those lordly few still manage to own large chunks of that."
Ouch. She's not wrong, though. Colonialism left us this messy legacy where land equals power and power equals division. And when you read lines like,
"They carved out chunks of that empty land, 100,000 hectares for this lord, 200,000 hectares for that lord,"
you can almost see the absurdity of it all. Namwalie isn't just writing history here. She's holding it up like a mirror and asking, "See how we inherited this madness?" Then there's the poem that gives the anthology its name, I Come From Everywhere. This one's a personal favorite because it hits at the heart of who we are as human beings. Namwalie argues that we're all from everywhere and nowhere. We've all migrated, crossed rivers, scaled mountains, and mixed with other tribes. So when someone tells her to hate, her response is both defiant and poetic.
"There is no purity in my people. We're a blend from everywhere. So what should I do with your call to hate? Must I cut off my tongue, all silky smooth and full of words so sweet?"
And just when you think she's done, she lands the knockout punch.
"There is no purity in my people. I come from everywhere. You now tell me I must hate and kill. Must I cut off my tongue? Then tell me this. How do I mutilate my soul?"
That's the kind of poetry that makes you stop mid-page and just breathe. It's raw, it's fearless, and it's true. Of course, Namwalie isn't content with just waxing poetic about unity and identity. She also takes aim at the ugly side of tribalism, the violence, the madness, the complete loss of humanity. In Would You, she paints a scene so chilling you can feel it in your bones.
Would seek a loving wife, give her 1 hour to leave her home, depart from all she knows and those she loves. And you call that an act of charity when she pleads with you to kill her then, to wield a blunt blade.
It's brutal, it's unsettling. But it's also necessary, and she drives this point home again in the Carcass of the house, where she writes,
Walls stand brooding alone. The carcass of a house still stands.
These poems aren't just words on a page, they're scars, reminders of what happens when we let tribe dictate our humanity. One of my favorite sections in this anthology is the poem Say My Name. Here, Namwalie explores the delocalization of names, how our names, our very identities, can get stripped away, remolded, or mispronounced until we barely recognize ourselves. This is where she draws her name, Sitawa Namwalie, and claims it with pride. It's powerful. It's almost like she's saying, I am here, I will not be erased. Another poem, Nameless, dives into similar territory, asking us to think about what a name means and what it means to lose it.
Whoop-de-doo! What does it all mean, Basil?
And this, my friends, is the heart and soul of Cut Off My Tongue, published by Story Moja back in 2009, a collection of 25 bold poems and 4 essays by Sitawa Namwalie. This anthology isn't just poetry, it's a performance, an experience. It's one of those rare books that honestly challenges your thinking and forces you to take a second look at the world around you. I walked into it thinking I'd read some nice verses, but, I walked out of it questioning identity, tribe, land, and even my own assumptions about belonging.
The belonging you seek is not behind you.
What I love most is how Namwalie manages to be blunt without ever losing the musicality of her language. Her lines are sharp, but they're also beautiful. She can make you laugh with her biting sarcasm in one poem and then, wow, bring you to tears with her raw honesty in the next.
It's enough to make a grown man cry.
So what are the central themes here? Identity, tribe, land, politics, unity, and, well, humanity. She weaves all these together seamlessly, with essays that really expand on the ideas she first introduces in her poems. She's essentially asking, what is the color of a tribe's blood? And in doing so, she reminds us that humanity, it transcends the arbitrary borders we draw around ourselves. Sitawa Namwalie is a Kenyan poet and performer, and honestly, you can just feel her performance background in these pages. Every line feels like it's meant to be spoken aloud, maybe even shouted if necessary, or whispered when the truth is just too heavy. She's not just writing for the page, she's writing for the stage, for the listener, for anyone willing to engage with her truth. If I could, I'd make this book required reading in every Kenyan school, and honestly, in every African school. It's that powerful, that necessary. And if you ever get the chance to watch Sitawa perform these poems live, do it. It will stay with you, the way it stayed with me since that day in Kampala. Hey, thanks so much for hanging out with me today. If you're interested in diving deeper into this book, I've left some links down in the description. You can use it to grab yourself a copy and keep the adventure going. And if you're in the mood for more great reads, don't go just yet. Click on one of the videos popping up right now that I think you'll love. And don't forget to give this review a like, leave a comment, or even subscribe if you'd like to see more. Every bit of support helps us grow this little community of book lovers. See you in the next one.